Hello and welcome to the Brodie Blueprint, the podcast designed to help college students and young professionals navigate their career paths. Each episode, we sit down with industry experts from finance, business, sports, education, and more to uncover their journeys, daily experiences, and lessons they've learned along the way. Whether you're exploring career options, looking for networking advice, or just curious about different industries, this is the place for you. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Hi everybody, welcome back to episode 13 of the Brodie Blueprint. Today I am joined by the Associate Director of Fan Engagement at Baylor University, Mr. Jacob Prail. Jacob, welcome to the show, man. How you doing?
Doing good. Appreciate you having me on. Can't wait to get going.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm really excited to hear what you've got to say for us today. Obviously, fan engagement and what's a massive kind of sports school in America. I'm really excited to hear what you're doing now and what's led you to where you are. So we'll get started. You're a graduate of the University of North Florida, where you got your bachelor's degree in sports management. Tell us a little bit about your time at college and kind of why you went down this path.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of a full circle moment for me, right? I went to University of North Florida just hoping, to get involved with the basketball team, Coach Driscoll, kind of going down that route. And ironically, that obviously doesn't work out for me. Go to his office, try and ask to be a manager. He goes, I'm full. Sends me next door to marketing, where I meet Caitlin Parsons, who's now the senior woman administrator for the ASUN conference now. But she was the head of marketing at UNF, and I got an application to be an intern as a freshman, filled it out, and kind of that was that. I started just standing at tables, not watching 90% of the game. You handing out everything that you can, picking up signage, putting out new signage, grabbing all the other signage, bringing it back. And then slowly worked my way up to running a camera during COVID, learning how that kind of operated, and then eventually, running our video board systems and being in charge of two sports. One in the fall, one in the spring, my senior year. So kind of a long-winded way of growing slowly but surely, but definitely a great asset was going to the University of North Florida and all the opportunities that came with it, not just at school but outside of it too.
Amazing. And obviously a big thing for a lot of people that watch this podcast, for me personally as well, is getting internships and being an intern. What was it like getting that taste of experience at UNF as an intern?
I think it was vitally important to where I'm at now. I don't think I would be at Baylor at 25, in a Power Four system without that experience, because then I would be playing catch up. I think it's vitally important everybody gets started early. It doesn't matter if that's what you want to do. I think it matters that you're trying to figure out what you're wanting to do. I just got very lucky, and it worked out for me, and it turns out this is what I love, and I love marketing, and I love the fans, and I love controlling that aspect. But definitely, like, without that 4 years, I wouldn't have gotten to Villanova, and then I wouldn't have jumped to UMass and then jumped to here. Without those 4 years of experience, I'd probably still be playing catch up. I probably would have gone and been a GA somewhere, which is also a good route to take, but also it wasn't what was my route. I felt like I had a lot of experience being in an athletic department for 4 years and being at a mid-major. I mean, they just ask you to do so much more and hands-on, and you'll learn so much more versus, some other places.
Amazing. That's cool, man. Another thing we've touched on kind of every episode so far, and we've had a lot of different industries. We've had finance, education, sports now as well. And everyone's kind of mentioned how big networking has been for them at some point in their life. What's that been like for you, especially working in the college space for so long?
I think networking is amazing. I think it always helps when, we just had NACMA this past week. And while I didn't go, I had a lot of people texting me and being like, I ran into so-and-so and they spoke great things about you. And it's like, it is important to have a network, because you never know where you're going to need it. You never know when that's going to work out for you. You never know who's willing to open the door, who's willing to stay in touch, In certain relationships, you hope to grow. In some others, you're just kind of like, you're doing good. You call on them when you need them or get some advice. networking is vastly important to me. I kind of take it in a different direction of, I follow a bunch of people on LinkedIn, or Twitter is another huge space where you can follow and get a good idea of who somebody is eventually and all that different stuff.
Yeah.
But it's vastly important. And that's in every space, not just the sports industry, but it does help. I mean, before going to UMass, I mean, without my network that I had prior, with Villanova and some other people, maybe I don't get that job. Maybe I'm going somewhere else, right? And it's kind of similar to Baylor, where if I didn't have some of the networking that I had and, asking around, knowing some of the people who worked here, maybe I'm not here, maybe, I'm somewhere else. But I'm incredibly happy where I'm at.
It's amazing. It's crazy what sounds like the impact kind of networking can have on your career, whether you think it at the time or not. So it's cool to hear that as well. Another thing we've touched on in most episodes is that a lot of young people maybe don't know how to get started with networking. I feel like networking sometimes is not necessarily an older person's thing, but it's something that older people are more comfortable and confident at. What advice would you have for college students and maybe even younger high school students who are trying to get started with networking?
I think the biggest thing is don't be afraid to be a little bit annoying.
Okay.
Because if you're trying to like reach up to somebody high up, let's say it's a senior director of somewhere, their emails are probably flooded. So you got to try a couple times versus somebody like me, my email's not that flooded right now in the off season. LinkedIn is huge. And the biggest thing is you don't want to take up too much of their time. Ask for 15, 30 minutes. If they're local, go get a coffee with them. Say or go get lunch, something like that, where it's simple. It's not something crazy, and you don't want it to feel like, again, you don't want to feel like an interview. You kind of want to get to know them. They want to get to know you as well, about like, why are you reaching out to me? Why are you interested in my industry? Why is this something you want to do? But I think it's a weird thing, because I think younger people like us, we struggle with the idea of just like, we just got to go up and shake their hand and be like, we would love to get coffee, talk about this idea more. But I think it's one of those things where you just kind of like, the more you do it, the more you kind of grow, the better it ends up being. And, and networking doesn't have to be like a sit down formal back and forth. It can be, hey, I know the person at Oregon did this great promo and I want to know how they did it. And I reach out to them. And now me and this person have connected, and now we've networked. And now we know each other a couple times. Like I know a guy, my guy Micah, who's at Lamar. He has a college baseball like kind of podcast, kind of blog thing on the side. I have my own podcast on the side too.
Amazing.
And like we only knew each other through Twitter. He came to UMass because he was checking off a bunch of boxes. He wanted to go see a bunch of stadiums. And then he knew me through Twitter. I said sure, and now he's like, one of my good networking buddies, and we're in the industry together. So it's one of those things where networking doesn't have to be super formal, but it's definitely a skill and how to circumnavigate what works for you, and some people may not. Some people are just, you're going to get some yeses, you're going to get some no's.
Absolutely. Well, one interesting you touched on there that no one else has said so far is that every networking relationship you have doesn't have to be the same. You can have one connection who's obviously having a huge impact on your day-to-day life or your day-to-day career. You can have another connection who you speak to once every 2 months, and they're still both valuable in their own sense. So that's an interesting point that nobody else has mentioned. I haven't seen anywhere online about your podcast, so please tell us more about that and tell us a little bit about how you got started with that.
Yeah, kind of keep it a little bit under wraps a little bit. But me and my buddy, we have a sports podcast. We talk about everything under the sun, college baseball, basketball, football. We cover everything happening in sports, just because it's what we love. We do it on the side where the show's called The Deal with D&J. We got a ton of stuff on TikTok. We got some episodes out on Spotify and YouTube. Try to build it all up and have some fun. It's just something fun we like to do on the side. And if it grows, it grows. And if it's just something we're going to do for fun, it's something I truly enjoy. And who knows, maybe it'll get me in a sports talk radio show one day. But as of right now, it's something I love doing on the side while doing all this. And I find it as a good escape to talk about sports not being so doom and gloom with what it feels like every now and then versus like we can talk about the beauty of the NBA finals and the NHL finals going on right now. You know, we're going to recap all summer. We're going to talk about, you know, breaking down college football, conference by conference, doing all that. So just a podcast we do on the side. I don't keep it in the resume or anything like that as of right now, but I do have one.
Amazing, cool. We'll drop a link in that below, Sam. It sounds like something that I want to look into, so it's cool to hear, man. I wish I'd come across it before we sat down and talked. But that's cool to hear, man. In terms of moving through your experience, obviously we spoke about your internship with UNF. That's kind of the first bit of experience. You've been fan experience representatives, marketing assistants, assistant director of marketing and fan engagement, associate director of fan engagement, and now it's obviously what you're doing at Baylor. So tell us a little bit about this career path you've had, the different roles you've had, and what you've enjoyed and what you've maybe not enjoyed as much.
Yeah, I mean, like in Jacksonville at UNF, I did everything under the sun. 4-year intern, right? You know, but yeah, I wanted to learn more. I was hungry. I really wanted to get out there. And I think for me, the first bit of experience that I was like super grateful for was being one of the only freshmen to work ESPN College Game Day when they came to Jacksonville for Florida, Georgia. And I think I was maybe one of 2 freshmen that got it. They primarily focused on like seniors and people trying to like, but I was very adamant of like, this is something I want. I love sports. Like, I'm going to do a good job. Tell me like what I need to do to get this opportunity. And I got the opportunity. And it was great. I mean, you get there and I was like my first kind of like really like I fell in love with sports and where we're going. And then, you know, outside of my internship, eventually I worked for the Jags for 2 years. Now, granted, I saw the 2 bad years of Jacksonville Jaguars football. Urban Meyer, Gardner Minshew, and Trevor, you name it, I saw it. It was, I saw 1 home win in 2 years. Let me just put it that way.
Wow.
But again, I take that experience as I learned how to communicate with fans and the way you view it, it really puts it in perspective that sometimes you get lost in sports. You have a game every day. Right? But it's always somebody's first time. You know, especially in college football and the NFL, like some people, this is their like, they save up all their money to come to 1 Jags football game a year. Maybe they come to 1 Baylor football game, right? Maybe if we're going real big, maybe it's only 1 Texas Longhorns football game. Maybe every couple years. That's a hard place to get into. And that's when you think about the fan experience, it's like sometimes we get caught into like, obviously, a lot of people who come to games, they're like, well, we've seen this, we've seen that, but it's like it's always somebody's first time. So how do we make it the best for the first time? And that was something I really learned from the Jags and like putting that kind of mindset into what I kind of when I developed things in that realm. And plus I learned how to deal with angry fans and people who are mad that the soda was flat or their food came 10 minutes late or the app didn't work. And you're just like, I will figure this out for you. Please don't leave, essentially. And then I worked 2 seasons, basically a season and a half with the Jumbo Shrimp in Jacksonville. And that to me was, again, you fall in love with marketing and sports because it's just so much fun. Is it hot? Is it grueling? Dog days of summer? Yeah, but like you have a good group of people with you. The promotions are so much fun. Like we went and got drinks after, we went and hanged out before games. And the actual game itself, like it just felt like I was at work with my friends. You know, and that's something I kind of wish, you know, every now and then, you know, depending on where you're at, sometimes it's not the department you're in. Right. That's, you know, that can happen. Everybody has different lives, but like in that dog days of summer, it felt like you were working with pals and buddies, and the dog days suck in July heat and you're going through a 6-hour rain delay. Like, you know, it has all the makings of something so beautiful, and it was so much fun. And I think with all that, the long-winded answer
Mhm.
really set me up for success to Villanova, where I was a marketing assistant there.
Yeah.
And it really helped me hone my skills of, okay, what different promotions ideas can we do for our fans and all that
Mhm.
during the game. And that really helped out when we were, I was directing football, I was directing women's basketball on games, and I was assisting men's basketball from the corner.
Mhm.
Um, all the stuff that came with that. And then after all that, I mean, it was uh, really put me in a position to go to UMass.
Mhm.
Again, same type of attitude. How do we make it different? How do we make it fan first?
Yeah.
What are we doing to make it unique? Right? Different and unique to me are two different things. Unique is
Mhm.
something no one's doing, and different is, okay, we've done this before. How do we spice it up and make it feel
Yeah.
fresh?
Okay.
And then now Baylor try and do the same thing. So long-winded career path. We could probably dive
Amazing.
into some of the nitty-gritty of what I've done there, but that's a long-winded answer to where I've been.
Amazing. No, it's really cool, honestly. I think, obviously, coming from Britain, university sports aren't a big deal. So even being from there, I've heard of Baylor, I've heard of Villanova, I've heard of UMass. So they're big schools, and it's amazing to hear that you've had success at all of them. One other thing that I always found different coming to America was that how big sports matches are kind of more of events. Back home, you turn up, you watch the game, you go home. That's it, done. You talk about what the game was like. I went to a couple MLS games here, a couple college football games, and it was like a performance. It was like a show from the minute you got in until the minute you left. So, as someone who's kind of been not necessarily in charge of that, but had a role in controlling that, what is it like, and why do you prioritize fan first, and what's it like organizing these events?
Yeah, I think in today's day and age, I mean, everybody's attention span is
Yeah, tiny.
very small.
Yeah.
And for us, it's, we put on a show, but a ton of it's rooted in truly tradition.
Okay.
You know, excuse me. I mean, at UMass, for hockey, when I had it,
Hmm.
it was, okay, when you walk through the door, what do I have for you? What can I do to get you engaged? Slash, how do I get you in the building earlier? So when you're in the building, you get to see all the cool stuff that I have planned for intros. And then they come in, and then it's again, you know, the first year I had it, we didn't have a fancy light system, right? We would go lights out, and then lights would come back on, and then I would have different videos, and we had
Okay.
station and stationary graphics and whatever the case might have been. And then year two, uh, which I was super proud of. Unfortunately, I left early in the season to come here to Baylor, but we had motion graphics. Like we filmed everything with the players to make it feel like an NHL rink. Like we had multicolored lights now, which was a game changer for us. So like the rink could turn red
Hmm.
with we're playing Enter Sandman as the team's ready to hit the
Amazing.
ice for the first time, and we let the lights kind of like sync up and do different things, and it was really kind of the mindset of where we are the best experience in the least in Massachusetts.
Hmm.
I've been to BU, I've been to BC, I've been to Northeastern, and we are doing it better and different than them.
Yeah.
So that's why you should come see us. Being at Baylor, there's a lot more tradition here than there was at UMass.
Okay.
Football, we have the Baylor line, which is all the freshmen. We put a cap on it, not all the freshmen, but freshmen essentially.
Hmm.
They don't go tailgate. They go wait in this basically holding area to run the line, which
Wow.
is the team runs out of the tunnel on this side. They're on the
Yeah.
opposite corner, and the freshmen run to the team corner,
Yeah.
and they form a tunnel, and then the Baylor football team runs through a mass of their peers, essentially.
Oh, yeah.
Super
Amazing.
cool experience to see, but don't get caught in the herd because, oh man, it gets ugly. But like that's a very unique football
Yeah.
Baylor experience that people love and people love to
Yeah.
see. You know, I think nowadays everybody's trying to just go above and beyond, above and beyond, above and beyond it. Like
Yeah.
most schools, the big schools can do it. For us, we find how do we improve upon the traditions we have, and how do we, for the couple games that we know are going to be big, how do we make them larger than life? We can't do it every game, but we can definitely do it for a couple games. And I think that's what we find fun is how do we make it different or something nobody's seen before, and prioritizing that fan first mentality that we can of you come in, get there early, put on a show, so that way you can go and tell your friends like this, like you're going to remember the game, but you will remember the incredible moments that you see that are not happening on the field.
Amazing. That's really, really cool to hear, honestly, with such modern ideas and like modern technology you guys are using, that you guys are still rooted in the traditions that you have. Like it sounds like something that isn't too common anymore, and it's really cool to hear. So that's awesome, Jacob. One thing as well I wanted to ask is, have you found a difference doing these roles within different sports?
Say that one more time.
Have you found any key differences in working in this same role but for different sports in your career?
Yeah, I think every fan base is different. Every fan base is different. Football fans, they're very different. You know exactly what they want. They want tailgating. They want good vibes. They want to see their team win, and that's kind of about it.
It's kind of it.
For basketball, I think it's the basketball fan base is very unique, and challenging in a good way because I think fans are now very intelligent in basketball. There's a lot of game to be played, right? And it's hard for me because I know it's a big moment. I'm trying to get the crowd fired up for this big moment. But they may not get fired up because they're like, there's still 8 minutes left in the game. Anything can happen. And it's like, yes, but if we get hyped now, we're gonna if we have momentum, we got to keep the momentum going. That's I think sometimes hard for people to understand. It's like when there is momentum, I need you guys to jump on my ship too. Because like we can put them away with 5 minutes left to go, rather than they try and come back with 8. Right. I think basketball is super unique and challenging in that way because when I was at Villanova, we had the same issue of, we go on a run and the crowd is just not getting up for it. And we're like, what's going on here? Right. But 2 minutes come down and out of nowhere, they're loud. It's deafening. It's tough to play. But the momentum for us is gone. And the other team has the momentum. We're trying to stop the other team versus vice versa. So that's where you try and do different things. And then with hockey, I personally think is the best fan base because people love it. I also truly believe it's the best product, watching wise. I am a huge hockey fan, which is ironic because I'm in charge of women's basketball and soccer here. But I think it's great. I think it's so fast. You have to be engaged, right? You can't take your eye off the puck because the puck may come out of play. Right? But the chance, the energy, obviously UMass, we had a great student fan base. Especially, when we went on we made the NCAA tournament in the last 2 years, the whole 9 yards, all that magic. You just find that they're just so invested in it. Basketball, I think the way college basketball is also going, everybody's transferring, everybody's leaving. It's hard for fans to be invested. Versus college hockey players, they stay for 3 to 4 years. So the fans know who these guys are versus, you can have Jack Brodie play 1 year at Baylor and then he's gone. He's going to go play for Oklahoma. You know what I'm saying? It's hard to get the community invested in players and people because you never know where they're going to end up being. But I think each sport has its own unique challenges. Like hockey, the same momentum thing I talked about is the same way, right? Because it's we might be down 2-1, right? But you're watching the game and we're not getting shots on net. Pucks are not being clean. We're losing the puck in the zone. We're on the power play and we're not shooting the puck. Like you can feel it as well. And so like the same momentum goes both ways in hockey and basketball. It's a uniquely challenging thing working events and how to navigate a game and fans.
Amazing. I want to go more into your career and what you do with these sports at Baylor, but I just want to get your opinion on something as somebody that works in college sport. Obviously, you mentioned how many people are transferring, and a lot of that is down to NIL deals and NIL money. What's your opinion on that and what it's doing to college sports just now?
I think when NIL was first developed, I think it was great.
Okay.
You, Jack Brodie, me, Jacob Prail, we could go down to the local sandwich shop, maybe the local pizza joint. Are you in Jacksonville? Right?
No, I'm down in Central Florida, so no, a bit further.
Central Florida. You know, either way, let's just say, you know, we're going to the local pizza joint, right?
Yep.
I believe up in Jacksonville was Big E's Pizza. And like they could give us money and we would get, you know, we would have to do a couple promo videos. We might have to wear, you know, that's the post game spot. Like, that was what I kind of like initially, that's what it was intended for, was we could go partner with local businesses or major brands and really help promote our own personal name, image, and likeness. And really it kind of stemmed from, you know, like a Jack Golke of Oakland made a big name for himself quickly. Then he got all these brand deals, which is great for him. He didn't have that before he blew up for Oakland, right? Same Amir Khan, the basketball manager for was holding a speaker. Aura. How he's got all these brand deals, right? Like that's what it was kind of intended for, was like the small unsung heroes that make it, they can capitalize. Then it got into the Wild West of, you know, we can collectives come into play. Big donors got money, and it's like, listen, I'm gonna give you $3 million to come play for me. Oh, and you're gonna say yes, and you're gonna sign a contract, but guess what? Let's say Michigan comes in and wants to give you $5. Then you're gonna go to Michigan, but guess what? You already signed a contract, but the contract, like there was no reprimand, there was no punishment for the contract. It was the wild, wild west. It really was. I think now with the settlement and how everything has settled here in college athletics, we're going to see a lot of change. I think we're going to see a lot of things change with how the business model works. But on the one hand, it hurts departments, but on the other, for teams, you're no longer having to play this competitive battle of you have to have the most money, because Deloitte is supposed to filter, like, what is this money for? Right? You know, I can't just give Jack Brodie $2 million to just play football. It has to be a true business purpose. So now, like, I think if that works, I think the Wild Wild West is done. I think we'll figure it out. But that doesn't really work, then I don't really know where we go. But at first I really enjoyed NIL, and now I think it got way out of hand, especially with the transfer portal, and they loosened the rules on that. Then it was utter chaos. So I think a little bit of restricting on both sides will help. But man, it turned into a rat race real quick. And, you know, doesn't matter how ahead you feel like you've been. You know, school like a Texas and will always have more money than a Baylor. It's just unfortunately the way it's going to be. And we can be the number one team in the country. We can be the best basketball program, and Texas will still somehow always be at. It's just a rat race. And I think with where we're going with the settlement, I think we're eliminating that balance out of the playing field, which I'm hopeful for.
Do you think with the settlement it's a reasonably short-term fix? Obviously, I've only been into American sport the last couple of years. I'm an adopted Tennessee fan because my girlfriend went to Tennessee. And I always springs to mind of Nico, the quarterback. Obviously, he was $4 million a year in NIL from Tennessee, wanted out of Tennessee and was now asking for $8 million. I mean, this is a guy that isn't even worth the $4 that he was asking for in the first place. How short fixed do you think this is for the athletes that have been commanding and demanding this money for the last 2 years, and now they're faced with selling where it's not going to be an option? What do you think that looks like?
I think it really depends on your camp. Honestly,
Okay.
I think you have to really be an honest assessment of what you truly think your value is.
Okay.
In the case of Nico, I think what people forget, and this is why I love hockey and baseball,
Mhm.
is because there's something called arbitration.
Okay.
Arbitration, players don't want to go to arbitration because it gets
Okay.
ugly. It's
Right.
ugly because it doesn't turn into like here's what you've done for us, like we do think you're this value. It turns into, you know, they have all the metrics against you to pay you that money,
Mhm.
right? And I think for Nico, arbitrarily, we look at the stats. Okay, you beat Alabama, but then you get smoked against Georgia, I think it was. You get
Yeah.
smoked against Ohio State. Like, you can barely throw the ball 20 yards down the field. Like, you know what we're
Okay.
saying? Like,
Commands $8 million.
arbitration, we can go all the way against you, Nico, and be like, you're not actually worth the $4 million.
Yeah.
Be happy with what we signed you with out of college.
Yeah.
Right? And then Nico transferred to UCLA and I think signed for less money he was getting from Tennessee.
Yeah.
So I think with the way the settlement's going and the way things are going, I think it's now turning from, okay, get the most money, to now it's how do we, I think we're going to go back to the root cause of how do we amplify your brand, amplify
Okay.
who you are. If the car dealership down the road wants to give you $5,000 to come shoot commercials, I'm all for that.
Yeah.
Right. But I'm not all for the Utah Jazz owner giving $7 million to BYU to get the number one recruit in the country for 1 year.
Yeah.
Like, that's where I think it got lost. I do think camps and agents are going to rethink how they do stuff business wise, which will be good. And I think we're going to really see a positive impact. Hopefully, I'm optimistic.
Mhm.
I don't think we're going to see it in year 1 or year 2, but I think the long-term effects of it, I think are more positive than negative.
Okay, cool. It's an interesting perspective to hear from someone else. You know a lot about college sport. You've worked in it a long time, so it's going to be interesting to see it play out. We could probably honestly sit and talk about college sports for hours, so I'll try and get us back on track before it turns into a sports podcast. Obviously, the Associate Director of Fan Engagement at Baylor now. Give us a little day in the life of not only what you do on a game day, but what you're doing during the week as well.
Yeah, during the week, it ranges from things, right? I got meetings, I got different stuff. I'll take you through, let's say we got a game on Saturday. I'll give you how it kind of goes.
Okay.
Monday we have our marketing department meeting. We just sit down, we discuss, hey, this is what I got planned. We kind of bounce ideas around. Normally, that's kind of just like a check-in, need help, things like that. Then I start working on my script. I use show flow, and that's just me going through changing our opponent. I work on the script throughout the week. So the first day I work on it, I'm changing what I know I have to change. Maybe I had in the script today, I got to change it to, the wording from today to tonight. Apologies. Today to tonight, I got to change the opponent. I got to change, a lot of stuff I know it has to be changed. And then I kind of sit and look at it and go, where can I maybe make some changes? And then I kind of leave it. Tuesday, it's our facilities meeting. And then I'm talking to facilities like, hey, we're going to have an anthem singer. We got a couple groups being recognized. We don't have, maybe we have a halftime act from, we do, I think one of the best halftime acts we do, it's a granny basketball. It's a granny basketball league here in Waco. And we're like, yeah, we got the grannies coming. Like, we got, so that's kind of how that meeting goes. And we're talking like, hey, maybe we're standing inside, we might be standing outside. Hey, this is what we have for students, kind of giving facilities an idea of like where people are going to be from our side of the table. Again, I'm going back to the script and maybe I'm making some different changes, right? Now I'm adding in maybe a new promo. Maybe it's like, how do I make it different? How can maybe it's something we haven't done before. Like maybe we do the wheel of shots. Maybe we do the air mattress challenge that we saw happening. What could we do? Then I'm working on graphics. Anything that needed to be changed for us, changing the next game graphic, changing some sponsor stuff. If they need it, maybe I'm helping them out with something. I'm working with sponsors on, hey, who's being recognized? Like Pizza Hut's wanting to be recognized as the game sponsor. What does that look like?
Mhm.
Is there a ball? Who's presenting the ball? Who from Pizza Hut's going to be there? Like who, what, when, where, why? Like the 5 W's essentially. Like why are we doing it? Who's going to be there? When are we doing it? What's being presented? Essentially.
Of course.
And then Wednesday, that's normally, let's say we have a game on Saturday, graphics are normally due Wednesday beforehand. To give our content team enough time to upload stuff. So maybe at that point, maybe I'm thinking of different free throw distractions. Like we did the Rizzler in a Baylor jersey and we would do stuff like that. Maybe it's some funny stuff. Like how do we have some free throw distractions? Maybe we're thinking of different things that we can do to make it different. Double checking some videos, coordinating with our content team of when does videos need to be done? When are we scheduling to run through? Things like that. And then Thursday and Friday, it's just really icing down the script. Finding out some details. And if I got a game the following week, I'm kind of starting to work on the next game in that window. Let's say we have a game on Saturday and then a game on Wednesday. That Thursday, Friday, I'm kind of already switching my mind to the Wednesday game because everything for Saturday is pretty much done. Once I submit stuff to the content team, it's kind of locked in stone. And then game on Saturday. Let's say it's a 2 p.m. game. I'm there probably 3 hours beforehand. Normally we'll do a run through the day before. So Friday will be run through. The first Super Slam, like we'll do a run through the day of the game. Kind of depends on what everybody's got going on and when I can schedule it. But Saturday I come in at 11, right? I sit down. I like to be there early. I like to be one of the first people from our team there. And I just like to kind of sit. I like to double check, make sure we got everything. Put scripts where they need to be, right? Friday, I'm also printing scripts and getting that ready. But then it's like I'm printing scripts. I'm giving them to band. I'm getting them to cheer. I'm leaving them in their spots because I don't want to have to run after them. I'm leaving some up in the control room for our content team. And about 2 hours before, so at noon, for a 2 p.m. game, we're meeting with our student workers, with my GA, and we're sitting down. We're talking about. I'll let the GA run the meeting because I want them to grow and I want them to learn how to talk in groups like that. But we're running through like where stuff's going to be, where is it going to go, questions, who's doing what are we keeping an eye on? Here's what we're giving out. Like we're going through the entire game. Then after that, we break. We bring everything to the corner from our marketing closet, and then the game happens. Doors open at 1, and we're just getting the show started. We're running through PA stuff. We're going through the reads, the motions. Game happens at 2, tip off. I'm in my director's chair directing the game and doing what I do best. And then at post game, we just clean everything up. We meet as a quick group. We talk about pros, we talk about cons, what we felt like could have done better, what we don't like. Maybe something went wrong that I need to know the answer to of like what happened. Never negative. It's just, hey, what happened there? Like wasn't super smooth. Like how do we make it smoother? Always try and take it into a positive light rather than be like, you guys butchered the promo. Like, no, like they're 18 to 22-year-old kids. I can't slam them. We just sit down, we break, and then everyone goes home, and then hopefully there's leftover Magnolia cupcakes that I can take home. That's normally my favorite part of the games, whenever I can get a cupcake.
Amazing, man. It sounds like you definitely get pretty busy, huh?
It gets busy a little bit. It's kind of like you get into a routine, you get into the flow of things. But a lot of work's done preseason of planning,
Right.
reaching out to groups, locking them in, seeing where we can have them. And then it's just really just when you're in season, you're just executing. A lot of prep is done preseason. Like,
Okay.
I don't know when this will air, so I'm not like today when we're recording, like I have a meeting at 3:00 with residents, like talk about dorm challenges, freshman mixer. How do we get into the dorms with posters and signage? That's the conversation. Like a lot of work is done in the off season.
Yeah.
And then when I'm in season, it's just execution. And then maybe things are going to pop up. Like last year, I'll give you this here, and this will be just to understand like how quickly things can move. Right? We were competing for a Big 12 title, right? Regular season Big 12 title. And in a span of a week and a half, I had to have ordered championship hats, T-shirts, banners, like the paper sign.
Yeah.
Right. And not only that, I have to then plan senior day. And then we're planning on how the celebration looks. Got to order confetti that pop down, right? You got to work with pyro. You got to work on who's cutting the net, like who's managing the net, who's grabbing the ladder, like who's got scissors. Like this is what we're planning for. Obviously, we unfortunately didn't win and we lost to TCU, but we did all that in a week and a half of prep. And normally, that was the first time I ever experienced something like that because I never had a team compete for a regular season title. Because normally it's like senior day, your season's over, you go to the conference tournament and hopefully you make it to the NCAA. But we were competing for the regular season title and we were like out of nowhere, you got to order 25 different things in a short window. That was stressful. But either way, like that's a atypical moment of a regular season.
Gosh, it definitely sounds intense at times. Jacob, your insight into the behind the scenes of a huge American sports school has been great to hear. We're going to move on to our last segment. I'm going to ask you to gather all your wisdom and knowledge and give us your biggest 2 to 3 pieces of advice for young people starting out just now.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is go try everything. Don't say no. I think right now, like as I get older, I'm trying to find a little bit more work-life balance and how to balance stuff. But like when you're in college, or just trying to get started in the industry, just, put your head down, try different things, go work. Don't say no. Like as silly as it may sound, like go try to be, maybe you want to be in comms, go give it a shot. Go be in marketing, give it a shot. If you want to be in sponsorship and partnership, go give it a shot. And make yourself well-rounded and you'll find what you like. And don't say no. Like if someone asks you, to be the mascot or ask you to do this or ask you to do that, don't say no. Because the more you say yes, the more respect you gain. And the more respect you gain from higher ups, the more they can trust you. And that's how like you kind of get remembered through that. At UMass, a lot of our lead interns who were on scholarships are people who said yes a lot, who were at games a lot, who took shift, who were willing to do what it took. And that to me signifies you're willing to do anything and I'm going to reward you for that. I'm not saying say no when you have to, be smart about it. Don't just say yes and then get burned out. But the more you say yes and the more you're willing to help the team will always work out. As always, I'm a big fan of try something new, do something different, go work in minor league baseball, go work for a pro team, or don't feel so pigeonholed of like, I want to work in hockey. Well, that's great. But I do think you should try some baseball, try some football, try some basketball, because you never know where your career path's going to take you. So I'm always a huge fan of try everything and don't say no.
Amazing. Jacob, I've been an episode full of information, advice, and great insight. Thank you very much for coming on, my friend.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Guys, we'll link Jacob's podcast in the description. Go and give it a listen. Support Baylor Athletics. New episodes of the Brodie Blueprint every Wednesday, and then updates are going to be on Instagram and TikTok. We'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you. Well, that's all for today, folks. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and were also able to gain some valuable insight into a potential career. Please head over to Instagram and TikTok and follow us. That's the Brodie Blueprint. And also don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube as well. If you guys have any guests that you want to see on the podcast or any industries that you want to see guests appear from, please let us know. Until next time, guys. See you later.